So welcome to another episode of Paul's Asian Adventure. In this one I'm going to talk about if the Philippines will open up at all or when it'll open up. So stay tuned or be doomed. So I got Gio with me on this episode. Thank you for joining.
Thanks.
And really I wanted to talk about if the Philippines will open up this year, when it'll open up. There's a lot been going on since we last talked about this subject.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest. We bet a coffee. I thought we would open the third or fourth quarter of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to think you're going to win just looking at the politics of it. And it's a lot of politics in this. And that's the thing I didn't really put in my calculation. It's gone away from what's good for the country to more what's good for the politicians, it seems like, to me.
Right.
And maybe we could talk a bit about that. But
sure.
One of the other things I want to talk about is all these new variants coming up, and also the ratio of vaccines in this country, and some of the sentences or the quotes that the president has talked about also. So
Sure.
I know you follow the news actually much closer than I do, but one of the things he said that he wants to open up the Philippines before he leaves office.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't quite quote whether it was international or domestic. What do you think there?
I think he's talking about international, and the reason why is because a lot of countries, you got Thailand, who's about, they're already open, and they're starting to discuss already, maybe we just need to live with it.
Yeah.
Indonesia is talking about they want to open bubble tourism in September, and now you have Malaysia wanting to open up the island of Langkawi.
Yeah, like a bubble tourism.
Like a bubble tourism. And I really think the Philippines is saying, you know what, we need to do something.
Yeah.
Or they're going to get all the revenue. All the revenue, and nobody's coming here anymore.
Well, one of the things I think what many governments are now realizing is that we are shifting from a pandemic to an endemic.
Yes.
Okay, and that we have to live with this. This is a virus, and it is going to mutate.
Mm-hmm.
And these vaccines today might work against 90% of mutation, but a year or two from now, they'll only work against 20% of mutations, right? So we're going to have constant vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
So, at some point, you're going to have to live with this. And I think not only the government is realizing it, but I've noticed that people in the Philippines seem fed up. All these new rules, they just don't obey them. They put all these new rules in place, and no one seems to give a damn about them. That's been my experience. They just do whatever they want anyway.
Because if you remember, when we were in Dumaguete and they had modified enhanced community quarantine, which we're going through now, you had to have a pass. You could only go to the pharmacy. You could only go to the grocery store. Only one person per household could go in. And none of that is happening here now. It's modified enhanced community quarantine. We're sitting at Starbucks, sipping coffee, like nothing's changed from the time it was less restrictive.
You go to the mall, and they're supposed to wear a face shield. The guards have their face shields up here.
Yes.
Even the guards. The cashiers have their face shields up here. So it's like no one cares, And even the face mask people are now wearing it down here with their nose here, and no one says anything.
No.
It's like people have stopped caring. They're like, this has gone on too long. We need to move on. People are tired. I really notice it. People are tired of this. And I think the politicians are realizing this. There's an election coming up. And I think they have to either open just before the election or start opening, set a schedule for opening.
And I think it's going to open before the election. The reason why is because if he doesn't open it before his election, then it's going to be a broken promise. You said before the end of your election. And so, in hard to know what Duterte really wants. I won't get into Philippine politics, but it's hard to know if he really will run as a VP or not. We don't know, but
we really don't.
And it's not our really concern, but we're just saying that I have a feeling that he's going to get something open. I really think bubble tourism is going to happen here. And I don't know what island. It could be Boracay, it could be Bohol, it could be Cebu. I don't know, And
I think if bubble tourism happens, I think it'll be Cebu.
I think it probably makes most sense.
Either Cebu or Bohol,
Yeah,
since they both have international airports.
right.
So
Well, Bohol doesn't have an international airport.
they call it an international airport. They actually have international flights. Before the pandemic, they had international flights coming in there.
Oh,
That new airport they built.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have that in Davao too, but we're going off on a tangent. But yeah, that's kind of what I think too.
So the other thing is the vaccine ratio. We talked about it initially. It's increasing. It seems like every week more and more people are getting shots in the Philippines, but also in the West. Like in the US, what is it? 75% of the population now had the first, at least the first shot.
Right.
So at some point, you're going to have herd immunity. You're going to have close to 100% of people, maybe 80, 90%. You can then start opening up the country for those people to come in.
Right.
And you know, the Philippines has tried keeping these different variants out, like the Delta and the Alpha. But the Delta is here anyway. The Alpha is here anyway. So what they've done so far hasn't worked. So at some point you got to capitulate or go into a stronger closure. And a stronger closure right now would just put this country in economic chaos.
Like you said, it's not really so much a pandemic now, it's more like an endemic.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to go on, there's going to be new variants. And
Endless, like any virus.
And it's just one of those things you just have to deal with.
Yeah.
It's here to stay, and that's just the way it is. You can't shut down the world forever.
With the vaccines, I think it'll become a yearly thing. So we're going to see yearly vaccines in the Philippines. We're going to see yearly vaccines, and I think that's how we're going to live with this virus. Just like the influenza type of deal, people getting shots, yearly shots, and I just can't see how this country can stay closed much longer unless they keep borrowing money from China or some other country. That's
they can't do that forever either.
They can't do that forever, yeah.
And they have stated they want to be at the 70% mark before they open up as well. And their current rate should put them at 70% around the beginning of the year. So if things continue the way they're going, then Duterte might be right. He might be opening for these offices.
Well, there's quite a few people here that are hesitant to take the vaccine.
There are. We've noticed the lines being shorter.
So like I was in the mall, was it yesterday or the day before? Mia wanted to go to Jollibee's, and we couldn't even sit there because he said only people with a vaccine pass can sit in Jollibee's now at the mall.
Oh, I didn't know that. Was this in Cebu City?
SM City in Cebu, yeah.
SM City. Interesting.
But then we went to McDonald's instead. It had a sign there, but no one was controlling it. So everybody was sitting there instead.
Yeah.
So these things are slowly going to come into place the more and more people get vaccines.
Right. And that's going to push people into getting the vaccines.
Yeah.
Because we noticed when this started, the lines were just outrageous.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of what the mayor said, yeah.
And then he backtracked because the governor came out with something and said, let's not use scare tactics.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing, when we do see a long line, it's usually because they have been called in to get their second dose. Which,
but there are many days there's hardly anybody in the line.
Right.
Which is, to me...
I'm already complete.
Yeah, and
boosters. And
I will be in 9 days.
9 days. And again, I think this is probably going to come into play like you noticed at Jollibee, and it could be just for jumping on a ferry now. That could be as well.
Or a plane or something.
Or a plane. So if you want
I think it's going to be more and more people are going to have to get the vaccine to do certain things, and I think it's going to get pushed here. If people are unwilling to get the vaccine, I think Duterte is going to push it.
Yeah.
So with that, I think I'll wrap it up. And again, Gio, I think you're going to win the bets. I'm going to owe you a coffee.
It's going to be a big coffee.
It's going to be a big coffee at the most expensive coffee place, I'm assuming.
I'm researching it now. Yeah.
I'm still hopeful, but I think you're right. And like I said, it'd probably be just before election time for the politicians to get the brownie points.
Right.
And then hopefully it'll open up. It'll boom the economy again here because it is sorely needed here, as you know. And
but it is too bad. I mean, because I know we're entering into another holiday season here, Christmas, and I know there's a lot of people that have been
affected very negatively.
Very negatively. You got people who are going to get married. You got some people who've got kids here. You got, girlfriends, and it's been a long time, and I don't know if I could do it, to be honest.
I can.
That's a long, long time to be away from a girlfriend or something.
Yeah.
So
I think we're headed towards a positive direction because you see all these other countries in Southeast Asia starting with their bubble tourism in the next few months.
Yeah.
And I think and I hope the Philippines will follow suit.
Hopefully.
Because they need the revenue as well. And we want them to open up because it doesn't benefit me and you in any way, but we see how people are suffering here.
Yeah.
And of course we want the best for the Filipino people, and hopefully with the Philippines opening up it won't bring too much negatives, meaning no more variants and deaths and so on, but it'll bring more economical bonuses to the Filipino people.
Yeah.
And all these broken hearts, females that are waiting to meet the guys from the West, hopefully they can meet, and hopefully it leads to something good. We will see, but I think we're getting there. I think it's sooner rather than later now.
I think so. I think we're in the. I think we got
stage.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
now.
I really do.
I do too.
We see a slight light, and it's getting brighter.
If I put on my binoculars, my telescope, I can see a light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that, we'll wrap it up. And again, thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next video, guys. Enjoy.